Welcome back. So, as we've kind of talked about in a few videos previously, if you happen to have been watching for any length of time, it's kind of been a year of rereading some of my favorite books this year. And in between my TBR for this month and trying to study for the GRE this month, I rediscovered one of my old favorites, so that's what we're talking about today. The book in question, as you probably saw in the title and everything too, is Wizard of the Grove by Tanya Huff. This is actually technically a duology. The books that it contains are Child of the Grove and The Last Wizard, but I've only ever seen it in this format, and I'm pretty sure I just bought it in this format, and I love it so much. I don't even know if this would still be in print anymore or anything, because I feel like I've seen Tanya Huff's stuff a little bit otherwise, but I don't know if she's a very popular author, because I feel like I don't really hear her talked about even when I first found this book. But it's so good, and it's so lovely, and it was so wonderful picking it up, and it instantly being so familiar and reminding me of the story that's in it, and at the same time it being like, how does this go again? What quite is the order of events and things? And it's just so good. So, general synopsis-wise, as you may have guessed from like the wizard part of the title and whatnot, this is a fantasy story. It takes place in a land called Arden, and it's got this cool, creation story that Tanya Huff did for this world, where it starts out with this mother who goes around and she creates the world from, this void of creation, kind of like how Christian stuff talks about the world being void, but it's a mother doing it this time. And she creates the world, and she creates this grove out of the trees are some hamadryads, and they're like her companions that she makes for herself. And then she meets, I guess, the spirit, it's not exactly clear what he is, who's called Chaos, and from him she has a son named Death, and for Death she creates mortals so that he can have something to rule over. Apart from the hamadryads, she'd also created centaurs and dwarves. I think that's all of the elder races, but I don't know. There's a merfolk too. Anyways, so she created these elder races that are all immortal, and then she has her son Death and gives him mortals so that he has something to rule over. And so, the mythology is really fun and unique, I feel like. If you're into the kind of stories that kind of have strong and fun female characters, I'd say these are great to go for. Tanya Huff did a great job, I feel like, letting women be the powerhouses of the story overall. The Last Wizard is a girl named Crystal. She's the one on the cover. And so she gets to save the world, which is fun if you're used to and bored of men saving the world. This is one where a girl gets to twice, because it's 2 books, and so in both books she basically saves the world in very different ways between the 2 stories. If you really wanted to, you could probably read them both separately. And if you read the second one, I feel like it gives you enough of the history and things you'd still understand it without having read the first one. But the first one had so much good color and stuff to the story that you'd probably be missing out in some ways too. But plot-wise, I think you would understand what was going on well enough if you only read the second one. Anyways, so again, to kind of explain why I feel like that's the case, the first one is very much a war story. A lot of the events that happen in it are war events, and Crystal helps end a war, and that's how she saves the world in the first one. And then the second one is much more of a coming-of-age type of story, even though by that point Crystal's 30. But it has the feel of a coming-of-age story, and coming into yourself and learning to trust yourself and be an individual and love yourself. So the plot-wise, they do have 2 very different feels to them, but they're very great companions to each other. And I just love them so much. The mythology is so great and so fun. I loved seeing some fairly unique world building. I mean, maybe in some ways it's all been done in fantasy, especially in this day and age, but it's just so good and so unique. And like I said, it feels like women get the power of it a lot, and that's really great. And I really love that. So yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about it and say how much I love this book. And if you can find them or the omnibus like this, they're so great. I love it. You should check it out for yourself. Definitely a great fantasy read. But I think that's all I've got for now. This is the Umlaut Harper signing out.